Hey gang, welcome back to Dr. D's Health Tip of the Week. Today we're going to talk about this huge plague in American society, anxiety. We know everyone globally can experience anxiety, and after teaching at Naropa for 10 years, I would notice people say, oh, you just need to meditate more. Why are you anxious? Or your athletes saying, you just need to exercise. And although all these things are great tools for managing anxiety, sometimes there's a deeper underlying biochemical cause that's in the way and then can leave you feeling defeated when you try and sit for 20 minutes or say your prayers or get marriage counseling or in personal counseling or exercise and only have moderate relief of anxiety. So let's talk about one basic pathway in the brain that's imperative to understand for anxiety, and that's the glutamate to GABA pathway. So we have all these neurotransmitters or brain molecules that signal feelings in our brain and our bodies, and one of them is glutamate. Glutamate is necessary for excitatory or gas pedal experience in the brain, but when it's too high, you start running into anxious thoughts and feelings. When you are in excess glutamine, you can feel anxiousness, obsessive, and rumination. I looked up on Google the definition of rumination today out of curiosity, and it was the action of chewing the cud. And that's when a cow just keeps Does thoughts ever get stuck in your mind? Do you ever realize you need to forgive someone, but you just keep ruminating on it? Do you worry about the cleanliness of a bathroom? Do you worry about what other people are thinking about you? Well, if you've wronged them, go own it and apologize. But if it's just something that just keeps spacing out in your head, you might be dealing with glutamate toxicity. So social anxiety, deep fears of doing a prepared talk. You're all prepared and you're still anxious to share your goodies with the world. These are things that can be glutamate driven. In a healthy functional brain, what's supposed to be happening is GAD, glutamic acid decarboxylase. Glutamic acid is also called glutamate, gets decarboxylized and turns into GABA, our cool, calm, and collected neurotransmitter. In my clinic, a lot of people come in from other functional medicine practitioners or something they read online or working with nutritionists with very good ideas. Things like passion flower, things like lithium orotate, things like valerian, things like CBD oil, things like L-theanine, things like taurine. You'll see a lot of these in a product my colleague Datis Karazian formulated called Gabatone, and I love that product. And it has a good, handsome dose of lithium orotate in there to cool the brain and enhance GABA. And I use that product often, and you can think of these ideas. CBD does have specific activity on GABA receptor as well. But before I jump to these ideas, I'm always thinking underlying causes. So what can muck with the GAD enzyme? Remember, if someone is saying ACE, they're talking about an enzyme, and that enzyme usually catalyzes something. So this decarboxylizes the glutamate molecule to create the GABA. There's one disorder in Carl Pfeiffer's Nutrition and Mental Illness book called cryptopyrroles. And this is a genetic issue where people will pee out B6, zinc, and manganese and not have these necessary cofactors for the GAD enzyme to work. So you need B6 and zinc to make GAD work. Down here, we have things like blood sugar stabilization. Probably the number one cause of anxiety out of my practice is meal skipping in thin, lanky patients. Remember, more substantive body types do well with intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, but most of the thin, lanky need metronomic eating. They need to keep pulsing in food, or else when they go hypoglycemic, the GAD enzyme slows down and the glutamate stockpiles. Guess what's another example of carbohydrates? Sweets, pastas, pastries, gluten-free pastas, right? Millet organic scones made with love in Boulder, Colorado will still drop your blood sugar, drop your GAD activity, and start stockpiling excitatory, anxious-making glutamate. So then we take grapes and we put them in a big vat with brewer's yeast and we make fermented sugar, aka alcohol. So you will feel gay and high and wonderful because alcohol pushes GABA, but then it comes with a blood sugar crash that long term will crash, and this is often why alcoholics feel relaxed and relieved when they get back to the bottle, but that wears off, and slowly but surely over the years they can become very anxious people. A lot of times there is an underlying anxiety issue that draws them to alcohol in the first place. So look for blood sugar issues in people struggling with alcohol. Gluten is not only a blood sugar destabilizer, but it also, when you make antibodies to gluten, comes with a potential cross-reactive autoimmune attack to the GAD enzyme. What I'm saying is people who have antibodies to gluten have a higher rate of antibodies to GAD, and that's why we see those two are in bed together. So you also want to run GAD autoantibodies on a blood draw. And this is fascinating, where GAD autoantibodies are predictive of type 1 diabetes coming down the road, meaning autoimmune attack on your pancreas will show up 3 to 5 years down the road if you're doing standard American diet and not being mindful of the Fab Five, which we talked about in the past, removing gluten, dairy, and straightening out things that are driving autoimmunity. So if your doc runs GAD antibodies and you're positive, it's go time on cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your blood sugar, getting the omega-3s, fat-soluble vitamins, the glutathione, short-chain fatty acids, and gut biome fixed. And we've talked about that on a previous health tip. And then finally, of course, hypothyroid here, not hyper, that's a typo, and hypoxia, low oxygen, are all going to slow down our GAD enzyme. So remember, low thyroid slows everything down, including the enzyme that converts glutamate, toxic excitatory anxiety producer, to GABA, your cool, calm, and collected. Hypoxia slows metabolic rate too. So sleep apneics will be more anxious as a generalization. Anemics, people who don't have hemoglobin to carry oxygen to the cells, these are all folks that are there. So the last thing you can do is to do just kind of a fun home test for anxiety and GAD, is try and do balance tests. You can put your hands out like so, and this is your eyes feeding where I am in time and space through the occipital lobe. But when I close my eyes, if I start doing this kind of stuff, that's a weak cerebellum, and GABA is really in charge of helping do smooth, coordinated movements with your eyes closed. This is why imagery is so powerful, and why Michael Phelps was able to win a gold medal when his goggles failed, because he had done imagery with his eyes closed. This is why Jamal Murray of the Nuggets' dad made him do free throw shots blindfolded, and my son Ozzy in basketball camp is learning how to dribble a ball with eyes closed. It's a way to strengthen cerebellum. None of that matters if you're not fed well. If you have cryptopyrroles and PB6 and zinc out, you have some autoimmune attack, or you're Swiss cheesing your cerebellum through alcohol or accidental antibody attack on gluten. So make sure when you're dealing with your anxiety, you just don't use therapy and self-help books and meditation as the rule if you're not feeling better. If those things completely heal you, God bless you, move on with your life. But if you're not getting where you want to be with your anxiety, make sure you deep dive into some of these potential underlying causes. That's Dr. D's Health Tip of the Week. We'll see you soon.